Hello, and welcome to Life of a Boss, the podcast, hosted by entrepreneur, public speaker, and mentor, Jason Hardin. This podcast is all about helping audiences create and reach their own definition of success through positive thinking, perseverance, and personal development. Having survived extreme obstacles from an early age, such as cancer, poverty, abuse, family dysfunction, and even homelessness, Jason has learned how to master the art of resilience and defy all odds to become the boss he is today. So, get ready for some serious game and remember to keep an open mind. Now, without further delay, here is your host, Jason Hardin.
Thank you and welcome to another wonderful episode of Life of a Boss, the podcast. I am Jason Hardin, your host, and with me today in the studio is the beautiful, wonderful, exciting, exuberant, I can't even think of any more great adjectives right now, but it is Miss Suzu. How are you doing today, my love?
Hello. I'm doing great. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm excited to be here for another episode.
Well, it's good to have you, and I'm grateful to see you in the studio right in front of me. And you are just always a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, Jason.
Oh, I love you. Anyway, today we have it's a wonderful episode because we are unpacking an interview that we had with the new candidate for city council councilman, and it's Brandon D. Lamar, and we had a great interview with him. You guys check out that interview if you haven't yet. It played earlier this week on Monday, and it's always there for you, and he gives out so many great jewels. Like, it is amazing what this brother does, what he has created, and what he plans to do for him and his community. And being a part of his community of Pasadena, California, I am very thankful for what he does. And that being said, we are going to unpack and look at and analyze his last interview and basically tell you our main takeaways that we got from it. How does that sound, Ms. Suzu?
Sounds perfect. I'm ready.
That's great. So I guess my first question would be, what is the first takeaway that you got from Brandon's interview?
So my first takeaway is actually I just want to mention the books. I've seen the books, and they are awesome. The illustrations were beautiful, and the message was just very clear, very
Absolutely.
empowering. So I did want to mention those. But why it's one of my takeaways is just actually to bring the emphasis of why writing is important, actually. And I think it's he found, a message that he wanted to express.
Yeah.
And he found his audience who he wanted to express it to, and his whys. And so I just want to remind people basically that writing is very therapeutic. It's very important. And if you find out who you're writing for and why you enjoy it or learn how to enjoy it, then you can also enjoy writing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Well, that was a great takeaway because just to let you guys know, he is the author of The King and Me, as well as another children's book called The Queen and Me. And there are books of affirmations of identity and basically trying to teach our young people to be okay with being themselves and being different, and that they are just as valuable and as anybody else. And I love that message, and I think that's what you said was very important because that's his story. I mean, that's the story he wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And writing is a way to change the world.
Yes,
mean,
it is.
Words change feelings, change thoughts. They shape the country. They shape the world. They shape our existence. So to put your words out there, never think that your words are less valuable than anyone else's. And I love to give him his props because he told that story. So who knows how many young people those two books are going to help. So Excellent point. My first takeaway was how 2020 was his best year ever. and I keep bringing that up because it was like that for so many. Of course, people want to say how bad it was and how horrible a pandemic and the country was and the market and the job situation. But people have to understand that we control our own fate. our own creativity, our own ideas, our own passion. That's what leads us. And Brandon has let that lead him. So when it was a bad time for so many, Brandon was not just thriving, but helping other kids get over the traumas and emotional and depressional baggage or whatever that come with the pandemic and being on lockdown and not having the freedom and not being able to socialize. So he broke the mold in creating those type of opportunities during a time where you weren't supposed to be around other people. And not to get them in trouble, because in the end, we know what's best for us. And in the end, those kids did a lot of good, and a lot of good was done for them by that event. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What else do you have? What are the takeaways?
That actually leads perfectly into my next takeaway, which was the Young Kings Retreat. And I think that was so courageous, and it was so vital to keep that normalcy, like during the pandemic, because this interview was a little while ago, and a lot has even changed since then, and it wasn't that long ago.
Exactly. But it seemed like it was.
Yeah, and he did it during a time, where it was most needed, and just bringing, people together, even though, nobody was getting together. Families, nobody was having large groups. So I just thought that was, very much needed, during that time.
Absolutely, and I want to give a shout out to the Young Kings Retreat. He will be putting on another one, and so we're gonna make sure people keep in contact with that information. Just keep looking back at the show notes and check in with Mr. Lamar and ask him when that starts up again, because I know a lot of people want to get involved with that, because it was such an impactful opportunity for the kids that were involved, and I know other youth can use it. All right, my next takeaway from the interview was how mentors are important in closing gaps. And he expressed that the importance of mentors in closing, whether that be age gaps, whether that be generational gaps, financial gaps, color gaps, nationality and all that. And he says basically that a mentor is a guide. And I totally believe that, because when I was younger, I didn't have one. Didn't even know what a mentor was, never even spoke about it until well after high school. So now that I am a mentor, I totally see the value. And now that I have a mentor, I totally get the value, So I just think that that's very important, and I just think that everybody should have a mentor. So you want to say anything?
Oh, yeah, that was actually pretty close to the next takeaway I was going to mention, but I don't know if I have it in the right order. He said mentorship leads to guidance. Guidance leads to opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because that positive influence, sometimes, I had a pretty stable upbringing, but I know without that positivity, you just see dead ends. You don't see any opportunities for yourself, especially if the people around you don't see opportunities. So like you said, it closes in that gap, and it helps them to see opportunities and to be able to live, life beyond what they see around them.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, because that is exactly what a mentor is that guide, because that mentor is where you want to be. Meaning they've been where you are.
Yeah.
Meaning they see the light at the end of the tunnel that you don't. And that's the most important part for some folks that don't see hope.
Yeah.
That don't have hope. They go out there every day and just thinking they're killing time before something happens to them.
Just surviving.
And that's it's a horrible way to live. It's a horrible way to exist without any guidance and without any hope. So mentors provide that hope, because they provide that guidance, because they've been where you are. So find one.
Yeah.
If you haven't got one yet, that's your homework. Find one. Yeah.
That's right.
I don't care how old you are. Yeah, find one. What's your next takeaway?
Okay. Next one is the solutions. When you started talking about trauma, and he made sure that it was very clear that the solutions to trauma are all different. It's very, very individualized. Trauma, basically, trauma-informed care is completely individualized because it all depends on each person's experience and events that have occurred in their life. And I thought that's so true. You need to treat each person, and you need to use compassion and love, and understanding to be able to see where they've come from.
Exactly, and I think you hit it on the head right there, and is trauma-informed care, because there is no cookie-cutter solution for any of us, and that's why you said, just like you said, everybody is an individual, their problems are individualized, so how can one solution work for everybody? And that's the art of trauma-informed care, and it's not the art of knowing what that person needs and already being able to diagnose them or give them the right answer. It's the art of finding out what that person needs, talking to them, creating that safe space, creating that environment where that person can talk and feel like they're not being judged. That's trauma-informed care. It's not having the answers. It's trying to find out the answer. And it's damn sure not thinking you know the answer. Oh, that kid's bad because of this, because of that. No, you don't know what circumstance made him not wanting to listen today in class. He might be hungry. He might be tired because he didn't sleep. You never know. So trauma-informed care is so important. And just is finding out the why. Not very just important. The what that person is doing, but why they're doing it. So, of course, that was a great takeaway from Brandon's interview. You're so awesome.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Yes. And my next takeaway, one of the last takeaways, I should say, is when Brandon says, check your motives.
That's one of mine, too.
Check your motives, man. Meaning, if you're not doing something out of love, don't do it. And I can vouch for the brother and him meaning what he says and actually living by this practice, because I see him in our community doing so much out of love. There's nothing that I see this brother does that looks like it's straight for profit or personal business, even if he uses that money to do something for love. But it's just, I don't see that. Everything he does is community-based, organizational-based, mentor-based, and something along those lines. So I can vouch for him when he says he doesn't do anything that's not out of love. And I think that's so powerful, yet so underrated in why we move and act. I think people have an agenda, which is okay, but that agenda should be set out of love. Even if it's to make you a better person, to give back to more people that you love. So somewhere you got to put love in there. What you think, my love?
Yes, that was one of my takeaways. Definitely have to check yourself, check your motives, question yourself and your motives. Because you have to, do I need to speak this way? Why am I trying to speak this way? Who am I talking to? And basically questioning all of those. I think going that extra mile. He had mentioned that. Going that extra mile. Taking that time to show somebody, that you don't want just a one-word answer. Like you really want to know, how are they doing? And you can't do that with everybody. That was one thing that I wanted to say, that not every person you ask, how are you doing? You're going to be able to take that time, So you have to be kind of intentional about going that extra mile. Some people might have the time or the patience to do it for every single person they talk to. Exactly. But if you're not one of those people,
pick and choose wisely.
Pick and choose. You don't have to feel bad that you're not, going that extra mile with every single person. But, you can be very intentional about it. It's usually going to be people that you really care for, or people that you want to get to know, or somebody that you can see that actually needs somebody to listen to. Absolutely.
And that's a great segue into my last point, and that's staying in your lane. Because just like you said, you can't, if you're not the type to help everybody and to open up that bag of worms or open that jar with everybody, don't.
You don't have to.
Don't try. You know what I'm saying?
Don't feel bad either.
Exactly. Stick to what you know and get better at that. If you're great with one-on-one or addressing certain issues that certain people have, expand on that. Do more of that. But don't sit there and think you can counsel everybody and fix everybody's life. Or don't think you can be a gang interventionist and you don't have any of the tools and training and education on it. Don't think you can be a marriage counselor and you have never had a successful relationship. You know, so it's like stay in your lane. And one thing that he also says is that mentors help guide you to find what your lane is. You know, so find out what your lane is by getting a mentor, by seeking that guidance, by following that guidance, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely you want to stay in your lane. Definitely you want to do things out of love. And those are probably the two most powerful messages I got out of that whole interview. And one more thing before we get out of here, I want to personally thank an interviewer. Actually, not an interviewer. It's a reviewer. Excuse me. Frank G, who left a great review on Apple Podcasts. And I want to read it. I'm going to read it.
Read it.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. Yeah. It's called The Process. That's the title. I love how you brought together all the skills obtained throughout your journey to release another tool for those looking to level up. And I thank you, Frank, because that's all we try to do. I'm just trying to bring the best of what I've learned to help you do better and get where you go faster.
Yeah, you don't have to reach everybody. It's just nice to know you've reached someone.
Thank you, Frank. If one of you has gotten anything,
that's
I'm
the goal.
doing my job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, man, thank you for being in the studio with us today, Suzu. I love you so much. And I appreciate you, Brandon, for everything you do in this community. And that was a great interview. And for everybody listening, check us out on lifeofaboss.net. Check us out on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review on iTunes. And yeah, keep coming back. We always got something good for you. Anyway, remember, success is a lifestyle. I love y'all. Peace.
Did anything stand out to you in today's show? If so, let us know. Your questions, comments, and concerns are important to Jason, as he is determined to always deliver to you only the most impactful information and content. Until next time, please subscribe, like, comment, share, and leave a review whenever possible. You may visit lifeofaboss.net for more episodes and great resources to help you become the absolute boss that you were meant to be. You can also follow Jason on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hardin. Thank you. And to never forget that success is a lifestyle.